ba'd. Here we have a selection from the book Mahajus Saalikeen fi Tawdeeh al-Fiqh fi ad-Deen. The book entitled Mahajus Saalikeen fi Tawdeeh al-Fiqh fi ad-Deen, which you can literally translate to mean the path of the travelers, and clarifying the jurisprudence of the religion. It's a small metin, a small book, a small summarized book written by the great scholar of Islam of the 14th century, Shaykh Abdur-Rahman ibn Naasir al-Sa'di, or some say Ibn Sa'di, rahimahullah ta'ala wa radiya anhu. It's a small book in which he wrote for a beginner with regards to the ahkam, the rulings of the religion, the purification, tahara, menses, tayammum, ghusl, buying and selling, hajj, marriage, divorce, so on and so forth. Yani fiqh, the legal laws and ordinances of the deen, the jurisprudence of the religion. So what we're going to read today here says, Babu Ishrat al-Zawjayn. This is in the chapter of marriage and nikah, going towards the chapter of divorce. Going towards the chapter of divorce. And this subchapter says, Babu Ishrat al-Zawjayn. It says here, the subchapter of marital etiquettes, or how a wife, or how a husband should live with each other. The etiquettes of living or treating one's wife or one's husband. Babu Ishrat al-Zawjayn. This, without any doubt, is extremely important for every single Muslim. Those who are married, those who are divorced, and those who have not yet married. Extremely important for every single Muslim to understand the basic rights and obligations with regards to his marital life. For the men and for the women. How is a man to treat his wife? How is a man to be intimate with his wife? What are the things that he's allowed to enjoy and the things that he can't do with his wife? What's haram? What's disliked? What's a good, wholesome thing to do? Similarly, with regards to the women, how are they to deal with their husbands? How are they to treat their husbands? What are the things they can do intimately with their husbands? What are their responsibilities and the rights and the etiquettes? And as we said before, our religion is a complete religion. Our deen is complete. As we've explained after Salat al-Maghrib, we're speaking about Aqidah, Tawheed, the conditions of the Shahada and Muhammad Rasulullah. It's from our deen. And also from our deen is marriage and divorce, and buying and selling. And when you go to sleep and when you wake up, how do you treat your parents? How do you deal with Muslims? How do you deal with non-Muslims? How do you live with Muslims who are sinful? How do you deal with Muslims who are... Well, heck of that. All of our religion is complete and perfect. As Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Allah says, on this day, I've perfected for you your religion. I've perfected for you your religion. Allahu Akbar. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم. And this was approximately 3 months before the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So 3 months before he died, the religion was complete. No bid'ah in the deen. No bid'ah in the deen. No bid'ah hasana. Because if you say bid'ah hasana, then that's going to be disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah Rabbul Alameen said, Al-Yawma Akmaltu. And there's no one who has any sense and has a basic understanding of the Arabic language except that he understands what that means. Akmaltu. I have made perfect your deen. With regards to its legislation, with regards to politics, economics, marital, social, the deen is what? Complete. And this is a great blessing. The greatest blessing of Allah upon us is this deen. So it's upon us to understand that there's no issue that you have, no problem, except that there's an answer for it in explicit detail in Islam. Allahu Akbar. Before there was anything known as the West, before there was a West, when the West was known as Spain and Portugal, that was the West. That was the West. There was no UK in America known to the world. Before there was human rights and women's rights and this and that, there was the deen. There was the ahkam. There was, just for you to find the difference of opinion amongst the scholars with regards to, does the woman have to prepare the meals for her husband or not? Just the fact that there's khilaf is major. The fact that the scholars spoke about it and they differed on it. That shows you that there's nothing that was untouched. Nothing untouched in the deen. And during those times, women were considered to be soulless creatures, literally. Women were considered to have no souls. When the Muslims differed or not how much a woman is to inherit and so on and so forth, her rights. And it's unfortunate that Muslims today have become blind and deluded by that which is called women's rights and liberalism and conservative and so on and so forth. We have to change. Why? Islam came first. They have to change. That is uncivilized. That's crude and immoral and disrespect to women. وهكذا. So the Muslim is يتبصر. The Muslim is to see clearly. Is to see clearly that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given him a religion that's complete and perfect, and there's absolutely nothing comparable to the details that we can find in our deen, in every sphere of the deen. Some religions only pertain to the spiritual aspect of life. But it says nothing on what you can and cannot do to earn a living. Just spirituality. Alright, what can I earn? What can I buy and sell? That's up to your own discretion. So this is moral to me, that's immoral to you. How can we get along? Well, how can that? So Islam is the perfect deen that every single human being has to accept and embrace. Khayran, inshallah, and this can be an entire lecture in itself. This can be an entire lecture in itself. So the author, or before we go on, there is an etiquette of living with your wife. It's not just, what's customary and there's an etiquette with regards to living with your wife. And there's an etiquette with regards to living with your husband. There are do's and there are don'ts. There are solutions to problems, and there are things that lead to problems. Most people, when they have marital problems, in most cases, 9 out of 10, they haven't done the basic Islamic etiquettes. They haven't. Whether they're obligatory etiquettes or recommended. And those things lead to the split up and the divorce and the custody and so on and so forth. So this is something that we need. It's something that we need. Khayr, inshallah, we won't go on anymore because it's in this topic. The author says, باب عشرة الزوجين يلزم كل واحد من الزوجين معاشرة الآخر بالمعروف من الصحبة الجميلة وكف الأذى وأن لا يمتله بحقه. He says, it is an obligation upon each of the spouses to treat the other in a good and honorable manner. It is an obligation for each, not just for the men and not just for the women. Some brothers, they only mention a hadith about the women's rights. Obey me, listen to me, cook my food, come to my bed, listen right now. This is how you beat women in Islam. Kullin min az-zawjayn. Both of them have etiquettes. Both of them have etiquettes and responsibilities. He says it's upon each of the two spouses to treat each other in a good and honorable fashion. With regards to what? One may ask. He says, مِنَ الصُّحْبَةِ الْجَمِيلَةِ. Good companionship. Being a friend to your wife is mandatory. Being a friend to your husband is mandatory. With regards to love, respect, care, concern, keeping secrets, giving a good word, encouragement, enjoining the good, forbidding the evil. All of those things fall under the term a good friend. Is this not the case? He's my friend. It's not an associate. Associate is one thing. Somebody should know, Assalamu alaikum, kaif halik. But it's my friend. I can travel with him. I trust him. If my friend comes into my house, he doesn't have to ask permission to go to my refrigerator. That's a true brother. Fadl, what is mine is yours, akhi. I need a favor. You don't have to make an introduction, akhi. Well, inshallah, I need a favor, akhi. If I have it, it's yours. A brother, a friend, someone that's close to you. And there are many etiquettes. And from the etiquettes of a friend is that he tells you when you're wrong to your face. Akhi, I love you for Allah's sake, Sanji, but you made a mistake. May Allah make it easy for you to fix that mistake. Rakada. Similarly is the case with regards to a man and a woman. A woman being a good wife is to advise her husband. It's to tell her husband if he does something wrong, and vice versa. He says, secondly, وَكَفُّ الْأَذَى. Holding back harm and annoyance. to hold your harm and your annoyance back from your wife. You have an anger problem. It is mandatory for you to suppress your anger with regards to your wife. You have a problem with cursing. You have a problem with hitting. Those things you have to stop. You can't do that with your wife. Even if she angers you, you have to seek refuge in Allah and turn away. Make wudu, make salat, read the Quran, go outside in the cold, take a cold shower. Whatever's going to get you, go hit the heavy bag. Huh, Khalid? Yeah. Go hit the heavy bag. Whatever is going to take your anger away. And similarly for the wife, if she has a problem with insolence, with being rude or sarcastic, it is impermissible for her to be rude and sarcastic to her husband. If she feels something is wrong or he made a mistake or this and that, she has to hold it back. Hold her tongue. A'udhu billah, hold it back. Both of the spouses, and the list goes on. It is extremely important for everyone to understand. He says, and thirdly, for neither of the two to be slow in giving the other their dutiful rights. I need some money, I need to pay this bill, the kids need this, inshallah, I'm going to give it to you, inshallah. It's a little tight right now. You go to the masjid, you go with the brothers, and you take the brothers out to eat dinner. Or you buy yourself a new pair of sneakers or a jacket, and your wife is asking you, she needs this basic money, inshallah, next check. La yajuz, haram. And similarly for the wife, if the husband says, honey, can you do this for me please? Or or let's do this. Or your man may want relations, inshallah I have to do this, I'm going to clean this up. La yajuz. You cannot delay a person's rights. Give them their rights to the best of your ability. And wallahi, if we just stopped and focused on these 3 points and just thought and reflected, I'm sure each of one of us could find a real life situation. Is this not the case? And when you find the complaints in the masjid, and I want a divorce, and this and that, you find it goes back to not understanding and implementing those 3 tiers. Good friendship, holding back your harm, and what? Not to hesitate to give the person their rights. My husband beat me. He didn't hold back his adha, his annoyance, his harm. My wife beat me. My wife hit me, which is a reality. She didn't hold back her adha. I divorced my wife for the 3rd and final time. Why? Because she cursed me out and she said this and so on and so forth. She didn't hold back her harm, her adha. Well, I had to get a khula. I had to get away from my husband because he wasn't providing for me. He didn't implement the 3rd thing. And the list goes on. The shaykh then says, وَيَلْزَمُهَا طَاعَتُهُ فِي الْإِسْتِمْتَاعِ وَعَدْمِ الْخُرُوجِ وَالسَّفْرِ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ وَالْقِيَامِ بِالْخُبْزِ وَالْعَجْنِ وَالطَّبْخِ وَنَحْوِهَا. And then he goes on into specific detail, because it's not enough to have the general detail, but the specific details. He says the requirement for the woman, what she is required to do, is to obey him in intimate relations. When he wants intimate relations with her, then she is to obey him. Not to say, I don't feel like it, I'm not in the mood, this and so on and so forth. When he says that he wants to be intimate with her and sleep with her, then she has to obey him. This is something that many people know, most of us know, we hear about, we talk about it. But when it comes down to the application of that thing, then it's a different story. It's a very different story. And you'll be shocked by many of the questions and the complaints and the sessions, the divorce sessions and the counseling sessions that we have seen and we have done and been part of. This is a main thing. Every time I come home, it's this and this kether. And it's whatever the case may be. My husband made me angry, so I said, no, I'm not going to give you your rights. Haram, la yajuz. If your husband made you angry and he says he called you to the bed, then you have to obey him. Why? Because of your husband? Because of Allah and His Rasul. As is mentioned in the Quran and in the Hadith, which we'll soon mention a few of them being the nice subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khair inshallah. So it's something that is very it's easy to understand as a theory, but the practice of it is totally different. When it comes to implementing it, it's totally different. He then says, she is not to leave and travel except with his permission. She is not to leave the home and travel and go to different places without the permission of the Zawj. He then says it is upon her to make bread, tayyib, cook, and the likes of these things. We say, regardless on what your food is, whether it's fresh made bread, whether it's naan or roti, tayyib, any type of bread, or whatever your food is, This shaykh, he says that it is upon her to perform and to prepare the meals. To prepare the meals for her zawj. And we're not going to go into any difficult or technical issues. We're just going to go what this says here in the metin, because we don't have enough time for that. And they mention the different views and so on and so forth. We're just going to go right here. This is sufficient. If it is not obligatory for a woman to prepare meals for her husband, then it's definitely recommended. And if it's recommended, if you do it, you're going to get good reward. Moving on. The shaykh, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, moving on to the next point. This is the metin and that's the sharh, the explanation. He says, وَعَلَيْهِ نَفَقَتُهَا وَكِسْوَتُهَا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ كما قال تعالى وعاشروهن بالمعروف وفي الحديث استوصوا بالنساء خيرا وفيه خيركم خيركم لأهله. He says, and upon the man is to spend upon her nafaqa, to spend upon his wife, not to be cheap, not to be extravagant, but a balanced spending, as Allah has mentioned in the Quran. لم يقتروا ولم يسرفوا وكان بين ذلك. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا, those when they spend, they don't go excessive, nor are they stingy, but they're balanced. Give her what she needs, give her a treat here and there. This is customary. You don't need to have this, but it's in your custom. When you're talking about clothing a woman, it's customary that she has a handbag. Is this not the case? Is this not the case on Mufas? Yep. Well, at least here in America. One may say, la, I don't have to buy you no handbag. I bought you an overgarment and shoes. That's it. We say in the custom of the people, from a woman's entire wardrobe or outfit is a what? It's a purse, right? A pocketbook. Right or wrong? These brothers, right or wrong? You brothers right here, yes? I don't read faces. I only speak. Yes. They're not married yet. They're not married yet. Okay, inshallah. Moving on, and before we go on, we explained the proofs for this in detail in other classes. Remember, from Mahajus Saalikeen. So we're not going to mention them again because we have a short time. Sahih? He says, وَكِسْوَتَهَا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and dressing her in a honorable fashion. Now, let's ask a question. Let's say that there's a wealthy man and a poor woman, or a poor woman and a wealthy man. When he spends upon her, or dresses her, and feeds her, and houses her, how is he to do that? According to his means, or according to what she's accustomed to? According to what she's accustomed to. According to what she's accustomed to. So if a man is rich, he's only get the basic things for his poor wife. She comes from a poor family, a poor village. Okay, he comes from the city. Right? He's a city star.
You set me up.
As we said. But he's accustomed to expensive things, and she's accustomed to basic, simple things. When he buys her clothes, is he required to buy her according to what he's accustomed to, or what she's accustomed to?
What he's accustomed to.
Him. Would you say, Sanji?
According to his means.
Both.
According to his means.
And how
Fadal. Yunus.
she has to choose whichever one.
She has to choose. There's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars. Okay, there's a difference of opinion amongst the ulama. Some scholars say if it's a poor woman, if it's a rich woman and a poor man, he has to spend what she's accustomed to. And then for this reason, this is one of the proofs. Everybody paying attention now, huh? No more working out in the back of the masjid, huh? The exercises, everybody's. Right, we say what? We say what? Is that this is one of the reasons. Okay, right. Sure. If you like, it may be best to save the questions to the end of the class. How about that?
All right.
Best? Right. So, but when I ask the question, it's a bit different. This is participation in the class, alright? So if you want to answer the question, no problem, okay?
Okay.
Inshallah. May Allah bless you. Now, we say that this is one of the reasons why the scholars mention that compatibility with regards to wealth and status is a condition of marriage. Or something that is incumbent, that they have to be compatible. And some scholars say the only compatibility is Islam. That's a long technical issue. Some scholars say a rich man is not to marry a poor woman, nor vice versa, because it's going to be clash. And Allah knows best. Moving on. He says, the proof for this is what Allah said in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, and deal with them honorably. And it states in the hadith, treat women good. And it also states in another hadith, the best of you is he who is best to his family. And we mentioned all of these things in the Riyadh Saalikeen lesson. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم has also stated, إذا دعا الرجل امرأته إلى فراشه فبت أن تجي لعنتها الملائكة حتى تصبح متفق عليه. The Prophet ﷺ says, when a man calls his wife to his bed and she refuses to answer, the angels will curse her until she wakes up in the morning. And the hadith is agreed upon. The hadith shows us that it is impermissible for a woman to refuse sexual relations with her husband. Impermissible, la yajuz, unless she's sick and ill, unless she's mincing, or unless he seeks some impermissible act from her. If that's not the case, then it is upon her. Rather, the scholars, and we say this because there's no shyness in our religion, we speak the truth. Allah is not shy of the truth. We say is that the scholars of Islam have mentioned that if a woman is mincing, that the thing which is haram is for him to have intercourse with her, with regards to the well-known intercourse. I'm trying to say in the best wording. But anything else is permissible. The woman is not to refuse her husband in. Okay, if he wants to touch her and kiss her and so on and so forth, then that's what she has to do.
Is that vice versa or is this for the...
Cave vice versa, Yani. Save it at the end of the class. End of the class. Now best. No problem. We'll save it. Ibrahim, we speak about at the end of the class. We say what? We say what? Everybody get the point? Yani in Islam, and I say this not to offend anyone or be disrespectful or blunt or blatant, but we have to know that Islam has allowed a man to have any type of relations with his wife and his wife with her husband, except for during her menstrual cycle and anal sex. These two types of intercourse or times are totally haram. It's haram, la yajuz, impermissible. Rather, anal sex is a major sin in Islam, as it's mentioned in several hadith, that Allah will not look at a man who has anal sex with his wife on the day of judgment. It's a major sin, and it's a means of curse. It's a means of curse, la yajuz. Having a woman or being intimate with a woman on her menstrual cycle is haram. Yani, vaginal intercourse is haram. So therefore, the point that I'm trying to get across, because some people may not understand, some people may become confused, is that a man can be intimate with his wife in any way that he pleases, as the Prophet ﷺ says, "Isna'u kulla shay'in illa nikah." He says, do everything except for actual intercourse. Khalas. He says here, so a woman can't say, well, I'm mincing, and then that's it. There are other things that you can do to please your husband. Clear. Play it. Clear. Moving on. We say the questions to the end, inshallah. Raise the right hand, Khalid, not the left hand. Right hand. Not your lead punch, huh? The power hand. Barakallahu feek. The jab, right? He says here, unless you're southpaw. Allah Akbar. He says, وعليه أن يعدل بين زوجاته في القسم والنفقة والكسوة وما يقدر عليه من العدل. He says, and it is upon the man to be just between his wives. If he has more than one wife, who has more than one wife here in the masjid? Anyone? Any brothers have more than one wife?
What's that?
One brother in the back. I can't see your face, it's dark. Tayyib. Khalid, what about you? Uncle Faz. Allah musta'an. Tayyib, Allah musta'an.
How about you?
Me? I'm poor. Miskeen. Aywa. Tayyib. He said, Aywa, alhamdulillah. He says here, he says, it's upon, hayakum Allah. نعم, the Prophet ﷺ said, انتبه, قال تزوجوا الولود الودود. هذا مفردة, بارك الله فيك. ما جاء في الحديث الولودات مفرد. المهم نمشي عشان الوقت. The Prophet ﷺ, Brother Jamal says, the Prophet says, I will compete on the day of judgment with the other nations. I will compete on the day of judgment with the other nations and sides of my nation. So marry a fertile, loving woman. A fertile and affectionate woman. So he says this hadith proves that it's recommended to get a second wife. How many do you have, Jamal? 0. 0. Allahu Akbar. أفتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم وأنتم تتلون الكتاب أفلا تعقلون. جوزك الله. آمين. ب4. آمين. قل آمين. He says he has to be just to his wives with regards to what? Love and affection? He has to be just to his wives in love and affection? No. Rather, that's impossible. It's going to be one that he's going to love the most. It's going to be one that he's going to be most attracted to out of the most. This is the nature of a human being. No one can deny this. No matter how hard you try, man is man and woman is woman.
That's a matter of the heart.
There you are. However, he has to be just with regards to the nights that he spends, how much money that he spends, and that which he has the ability to do with regards to being just. Moving on. We don't have the time to explain everything because we mentioned that. He says with the hadith, من كانت له امرأتان فمال إلى إحداهما جاء يوم القيامة وشقه مائل متفق عليه. It states in the hadith, whoever has 2 wives and he is inclined towards one of them, on the day of judgment his body will be linked over. His body will be in an ugly form, ugly fashion. And hadith is agreed upon. It shows the impermissibility of being unjust between your wives. Being unjust between your wives, and also from the etiquettes, and this is not the topic of our class, but from the etiquettes of having more than one wife, and it's natural that one is more love to you, one is you don't have to show it and display it in front of the woman. Is this not the case, sister? I thought I heard now. Out of him is that a person can love somebody more. He can love one of his children. He loves more, but it's not for him to say all the time, "I love you so much, son. You're my favorite son. You're my best son." That has a psychological effect on the other children, and they'll grow up and they'll die just like Yusuf alayhi salam. Shaitan whispers. Allah says Shaitan is a clear enemy to man. So we said is that a man is to be wise. Hikmah. With regards to his wives, there's 2 wives, there's 4 wives. He loves more than one of them. One of them he was with for 20 years. One of them was the mother of his children. One of them was with him through thick and thin when he had nothing. It's obviously that he's going to love this one the most, inshallah. However, it's not a condition that he always brings this up and breaks the backs of his other wives. He doesn't have to show it and tell them. They're going to be able to see it, of course. They're going to know it. But it's not something that he is to flaunt. It's a person to use hikmah. The Prophet ﷺ used hikmah. Right. Moving on to the next point. We don't have time to discuss that anymore. He says, وعن أنس من السنة إذا تزوج الرجل البكرة على الثيب أقام عندها 7 ثم قسمها. Well, and we want to make some ikhtisar because we really don't want to talk about polygamy too much right now. Right. He says, وإن أسقطت المرأة حقها من القسم أو من النفقة والكسبة بإذن الزوج جاز ذلك. The next point he says, and if a woman tells her husband that he doesn't have to give her her rights with regards to spending the night or spending upon her or clothing her or housing her, then that is permissible. If she says, I understand your situation, I don't want to put no difficulty on you, whatever the case may be. If a woman says, please don't get married to another woman, he says, no, I need another wife. I want to get, please. No, I'm getting, and she makes a bargain with him. She says, I'll give you my rights.
I thought they did it with you.
Fine, moving on. We have to close the door now. It's too many issues. No time. Let the kalam anhu. Is a type of marriage which is called nikah al-misyah, which is a marriage in which a man agrees with a woman. The woman says, I don't want nothing from you. No money, no clothing, no lodging. I have money, I'm well established. The only thing I want from you is good companionship and so on and so forth. Tayyib, she says, I understand that you're a traveling man, you're busy. You can come visit me whenever you have the chance. You can come and visit me what? Whenever you have the chance. And she's pleased with that. This is called nikah al-misyah. Some scholars say this is impermissible. And others say that it is permissible. Allahu A'lam. We're not talking about that right now. That's for another topic. Moving on. Getting to the point that we want to get to. He says, وَإِنْ خَافَ نُشُوزًا أو إِنْ خَافَ نُشُوزَ امْرَأَتِهِ أو ظهرت منها قرائن معصيته وعظها. He says, if he sees that his woman is not being obedient, his wife is not being obedient, she's being disrespectful, if there's marital discord from the wife, not from the husband, from the wife, then he is to admonish her. He is to what? Admonish her. Fear Allah, sister. Ittaqillah. Fear your Lord. This is haram. The Prophet ﷺ said, a woman cannot do this. Allah says in the Quran, this. This is how it should be done. Give her a book, write her a note, send her a text message, get someone to give her an admonition, not scream and holler at her and threaten her and curse her. I'm going to divorce you right now. La, 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 la. Wa'adh. Like a khutbah, give her speech, talk to her. Tayyib. If she's someone that's going to be affected by kindness, you talk to her kindly. If she needs to cry, you have to tell her, fear Allah. You could go to hell if you do this, then that's what you have to do. That's the first step when there's problems in the marriage. The first step is not going to the masjid or going to your parents or talking about it in public or beating it. That is not the first step. That is not the first step. Most brothers, unfortunately, they do not do it correctly. They don't do it correctly. This is the first step. Admonish her. Admonish her of what? Of Allah. Tell her about her Lord. Not about you, but about Allah. What you're doing, sister, is impermissible. Allah is angry with you. And the proof is what it says in this hadith. Not because of me, and this is a very important thing. The woman, just to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't make people fear us. We don't call people to fear us. We call people to fear their Creator. Tayyib? Everybody got this? It's extremely important. It's extremely important. He says, فَإِنْ أَصَرَّتْ هَجْرَهَا فِي الْمَضْجَعِ. If she persists, if she continues to be disrespectful and disobedient, if she doesn't give him his rights, then he is not to sleep with her. He is not to sleep with her. What is meant by that? Not having sexual relations, not sleeping in the bed, leaving the home, sleeping in the bed and turning away from her. Allahu A'lam. They're all possible. Al-Muhim, what's important is that he is not to sleep with her. And this is something that is going to take patience from the men. Many men, when their wives, they have problems, they still wouldn't be intimate. And they still wouldn't have relations with their wives. It's incorrect. If she doesn't take the admonishment, don't give her her rights sexually. And more important than that, and which has a stronger effect, bi'idhnillah, is the psychological effect. That I don't want to be next to you, I'm not going to hug you or cuddle you or nothing like that in the bed, because I'm displeased with you. And bi'idhnillah, there's a good sister who has some fear of Allah, that's going to have an effect on her. Bi'idhnillah. She may one day go by, I don't care, so what? 2 days go by, 3 days go by. If you have enough strength, everybody knows this, quote unquote, the silent treatment, that hurts. That hurts. And that will break the pride of that woman to return back to Allah's obedience and return back to the service to her husband. Everybody got this? Everybody agree on this, or some difference of opinion?
Difference of opinion.
Okay, it says difference of opinion. No problem.
Different strokes with different folks.
He says here, فَإِن لَمْ تَرْتَدِعْ ضَرْبَهَا. Excuse me?
I'm trying to get free.
Allahu Akbar. No, the poet said, don't ask a doctor about it. He said, ask someone who has experience. Don't ask a doctor. Ask someone who has experience with that patient. Khair, inshallah. He says if she refuses, then he should beat her with a beating that is totally unharmful. A beating that doesn't bruise her skin, nor break her bone, nor leave a mark or a welt. In other words, this beating is more what? It's more psychological than physical. What's meant is not to beat your wife, punch her in the face, hit her upside her head, grab her by her hair. La, that's haram. Which many brothers do. In the masjid, they come and they complain, and they say, my husband this, and if you don't believe me, look at my face, and so on and so forth. Whoever started the fight, whoever was wrong, al-Muhim, that's what her eye looks like. That's what her tooth looks like. That facts don't lie. Okay? This is haram. What's meant is more of the psychological effect of the beating. More of a tap. As they say, a love tap. Sahih? Play it. These are the steps. He says, وَيَمْنَعْ مِنْ ذَلِكَ إِنْ كَانَ مَانِعًا لِحَقِّهَا. And he is not to do none of those things if he himself is, if he isn't given her rights. Okay, so there's a balance. If he isn't given her rights, he can't expect all of his rights. Okay, and then we say this all the time when we counsel people, is that you, akhi, you're not the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and your wife is not Khadija. Don't forget that. You're not Muhammad, and she's not Khadija. You're not the best husband, far from it, and she isn't the best wife, and she's far from it. So it has to be understanding. Focus on your own mistakes firstly. Have you fulfilled all the rights of your wife? When's the last time you sat down and taught your wife something? When's the last time you sat down and opened up a book with your wife? If you leave your wife to be ignorant, then she's going to be disobedient. She doesn't know of Allah. What is she going to know about you? Your husband is not giving it. When's the last time, sister, you gave him advice? When's the last time you did something extra for him? When's the last time you said, let's go to a class at the masjid? Let's listen to this beneficial lecture. Not the movies, not here. Let's go and learn something together as a husband and wife. And the Muslim is always to review himself. He then goes on to say, وَإِنْ خِيفَ الشِّقَاقُ بَيْنَهُمَا بَعَثَ الْحَاكِمُ حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا يَعْرِفَانِ الْأُمُورَ وَالْجَمْعَ وَالتَّفْرِيقَ يَجْمَعَانِ إِنْ رَأَيَا بِعِوَضٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ أَوْ يُفَرِّقَانِ فَمَا فَعَلَ جَازَ عَلَيْهِمَا وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. He says the next step, and before we're going to mention if it's the other problem, if a woman fears, we're going to get to that, so we won't say that we're ignoring the sisters. The next step is, if a man, or if they fear that it's going to be total discord, they're not going to agree, they're not going to be obedient, they're not going to be respectful to each other, it's nothing but, it's ill living, it's not a good situation, then the ruler, or in this case the imam of the masjid, is to send an arbitrator from his family and an arbitrator from her family. Two people who are wise and smart. Two people who are level-headed and balanced. People who understand, not two fools. Not someone who's jealous and malicious and evil. Not someone who's ignorant. Two people who have basic level-headed knowledge. They can sit down, they can be impartial, and they say, this is most beneficial for this couple. This is my niece, and that's my daughter. Why can't I? We're going to sit down, not for me, and not from what's most beneficial for the two. Not for the family. And the family name, how can my daughter get divorced? Right, Uncle Boss? How can my daughter get divorced? This is a shame in my country. So what? Would she live in this situation like this? This is madness. That it has nothing to do with Islam. That's from Jahiliyyah. If a woman is getting abused or disrespected, and there's no way, there's no solution to the problems, just be patient. Let them continue to beat you like a dog, and just don't get divorced, because it's subhanallah. So what are you going to do? What is your family name going to look like if that sister commits suicide? Then what? Or if she makes disbelief, she makes kufr. I don't want to be a Muslim anymore. My father, my parents, they knew what was going on in my marriage, and they didn't want me to get a divorce. Then how is your family going to look? And the list goes on. The list goes on. So the point that we're trying to make is the arbitrators have to be people that are balanced. Have people that have patience, not people that are hasty. Oh, divorce. To look, to sit down, to investigate the problems, to give good solutions. Inshallah, you do this, and he'll do that. He agrees to work on this. Maslahah. That which is a benefit for the marriage. Whether they stay together or whether they separate. Everybody got this? This is the only reason why I'm saying this over and over and over again, because it's extremely important. And most people don't do this correctly. They don't do this correctly. Some people, they volunteer to be the arbitrator. She hates the husband. She hated him from day one. Or the arbitrator is the husband's mother, and the husband's mother was jealous against the wife from day. What maslahah? What good is going to? There's no good is going to come from it. Everybody got the point? Everybody got the point? I didn't hear. I heard. Everybody got the point. Right. He says here. If he says whether they keep them together, if they see that, or whether they say she should be divorced, she should get the khula or the talaq, which will be explained, whatever the case may be. He says it is permissible for them to do what the two arbitrators decide on. And some scholars say that it's obligatory. That's a technical issue that we're not going to get into. Some scholars say that it is what? Obligatory. Once the arbitrators decide, then the two spouses have to follow what they decide on. And that's a technical issue that we are not going to get into at this moment. Before we stop, briefly, he says here, Babul Khulaf. We know that when it comes to divorce, there are two main types of divorce. Two main types. There's the talaq, and then there's khula. The talaq is when the husband divorces his wife for her disobedience, or for her disrespect, or she's being negligent with regards to his rights, or if he just doesn't want to be married to her no more, for whatever the case may be. He pronounces the divorce. That is what? That's talaq. And the second type is called the khula. Is when the woman seeks to be separated from the man because of his lack of religion, because of a major physical defect he has, character flaw, whatever, he can't have children, he has a serious anger problem, I'm not attracted to him anymore, I fear making zina, whatever the case is, she seeks separation from him. And that is called what? Khula. The first type of divorce is a divorce that is issued by the man. The second type of divorce is the divorce that is issued by the man. But the difference lies in several points, such as the waiting period, such as a woman has to pay something for the khula, which will be explained later on. Right? Everybody understand this. Once again, this is extremely important. And most questions that the people ask in the masjid, in the dawah center, on the internet, overseas, most of the questions pertain to divorce. Divorce. I divorced my wife, she was mincing. I divorced my wife 3 times. A woman says, I didn't give him back the mahar. I didn't give him back the dowry. Is the khula valid? So what? My husband beats me. Can I get a divorce? My husband's this. My wife is that. She can't. So this is important for us to understand and have basic knowledge of his rulings. He says, وهو فراق زوجته بعوض منها أو من غيرها والأصل فيه قوله تعالى فإن خفتم ألا يقيم حدود الله فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدت به الآية. He said the definition of khula is, Ibrahim and Dawood, he says the definition of khula is for a man to be separated from his wife by her paying or putting some type of financial payment forth. Whether she pays or whether someone else pays. Right? Is that it is a divorce with a payment. A divorce with a ransom. A ransom. Okay? He says, in the original, or the asal, the basis or the foundation of this whole entire issue, is what Allah says in the Quran, what is translated to mean. So if you fear that they will not establish and adhere to Allah's limitations, to Allah's rulings, if you fear, if the arbitrators fear, if they fear, if a woman fears, if there's fear that a man is not going to live with his wife correctly, if she can't do what she's supposed to do with him, Allah says, فَلَا جُنَاحَ. There's no sin. عَلَيْهِمَا. There's no sin upon the two, the husband and the wife, فِي مَفْتَدَتْ بِهِ. With regards to the ransom that she gives. Meaning, for her to be separated from him. Let me go. Please divorce me. I'll give you this. He says, okay, no problem. You're divorced. Khalas. This is the khula. And there are many, many issues pertaining to the khula. Such as, how long is the waiting period? Such as, is the khula considered a talaq? Or is it other than a talaq? Does it count as one time or not? Such as, is it permissible for a woman to give more than her dowry? He paid her, let's say here in America, what's the average dowry? What's the average dowry in Guyana, Sheikh? Average, moderate, balanced.
Right now, the exchange is about $20,000.
$20,000 in Guyana for the dowry.
That's Guyana dollars, right? Please. It's 1 Bear in mind.
$20,000 in Guyana, he says. So the woman, she doesn't want to be with him no more. Divorce me, says, I'm not divorcing you. You're not going anywhere. Right? This is what the husband says. This is what the husband says, right? No. Divorce me, I don't want to be with you, you this and that. No, I'm not divorcing you. Go tell your father, go tell your man, I'm not divorcing you. This is reality. This is what the men do. Okay? For whatever reason, I'm not divorcing you. I hate you, let me go, please, divorce me, I don't want to be with you no more. I'll give you back my dowry, 20,000. He says, okay, no problem. And he divorces her, he lets her go. That is called what? Khula. Now the issue is it permissible for a woman to give her husband more than what he paid? Some scholars say yes, it's permissible, because Allah says, fi maftadat bihi. Anything that she gives. And some scholars say it's haram, it's impermissible. She cannot give him more than her original dowry. Al-Muhim, we're not going to get into that right now. Does everybody understand the basis of khula now? Moving on. No questions until the end of the class. He says, فَإِذَا كَرِهَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ خُلِقَ زَوْجِهَا أَوْ خَلْقَهُ وخافت أن لا تقيم حقوقه الواجبة بإقامتها معه فلا بأس أن تبذل له عوضا ليفارقها. The shaykh rahimahullah then goes on to say, if a woman dislikes the character of her husband, he's bad character, he gets angry, he's rude, he's foul, he's offensive, he's disrespectful, he's not loving, he's not romantic, whatever, his character, his moral character, if she hates those characteristics of him, or his physical makeup, my husband is too weak, he's obese, he's too big, he can't have children, he has a broken leg, his back is broken, he can't fulfill my desires. This is a reality. We're not trying to be funny. This is a reality. This is a reality. It's real life. He cannot fulfill my desires. He's weak in the bed. I don't get to the climax of the intercourse. Whatever the case is, and she fears, the sheikh says, she fears that she can't live with him. She can't give him his rights. She says, I'm not attracted to my husband anymore. I just can't look at him. I can't smile in his face. I can't be intimate with him. He's too this, he's too that. If she fears these things, he says, then there's no sin upon her to give him some wealth for him to let her go. And this is called what? The khula. Everybody understand this? So the khula is not for the man. The khula is not something that the man is say, I'll give you the khula because I don't want to talaq. The khula is when a woman wants to get away. When a woman has a problem. Everybody understand this? Moving on. He says here, the shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, وَيَصِحُ فِي كُلِّ قَلِيلٍ وَكَثِيرٍ مِمَّنْ يَصِحُ طَلَاقُهُ. He says the author's opinion is, anything that she gives is valid and lawful. A little bit or a lot. She says, I'll give you $10 right now to give me the khula. Yasih, it's valid. If I give you $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, I give you back the ring, whatever, it's valid according to the author. And we're going to suffice ourselves with this one simple opinion for right now. Everything clear?
Yeah.
He says, فَإِنْ كَانَ لِغَيْرِ خَوْفٍ أَنْ لَا تُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ وَرَدَ فِي الْحَدِيثِ مَنْ سَأَلَتْ زَوْجَهَا الطَّلَاقَ مِنْ غَيْرِ مَا بَأْسٍ فَحَرَامٌ عَلَيْهَا رَائِحَةُ الْجَنَّةِ. He says here, if there is no reason for this, if she doesn't fear to be disobedient to him and she can't establish Allah's set limitations, His rulings, the halal and haram, then it states in the hadith, any woman who asked her husband for divorce without any problems, she would not smell the fragrance of paradise. Any woman who asks for khula or asks for talaq from her husband without no valid excuse, without no problem, then it is unlawful for her to smell the fragrance of Jannah. Does that mean that she's not going to Jannah?
What was the hadith that you were saying?
Does that mean that she's not going to Jannah? Moving on. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, we finished the bab of khula, and now we have kitab al-talaq. And as you notice that the author mentioned the khula in the end of the chapter of what? No. Ahsant. Ishra. And the issue of living with the husband. Tayyib. So that, al-Muhim is connected to the chapter of divorce, but it's also connected to the chapter of bad treatment from the husband. Everybody got that? Everybody clear on this? There are many, many other details we do not have the time to get into. Proofs and evidences, we simple, basic fiqh. We're going to stop here, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. hopefully, if we a couple minutes for some questions and answers. Once again, brothers and sisters, this is Mukhtasar, Sheikh Jamal. This is summarized. Simple, brief, but it's very beneficial for many of us that don't know these things or may have some misunderstandings. Bismillah, in the next summer, inshallah, if Allah gives us life and allows us to come back, and if you invite me back, then inshallah we will continue. Inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to give us beneficial knowledge and righteous action, and allow us to implement and do what we're supposed to do. Wallahu azza wa jal a'lam. Start with the questions from the sisters.
Start the question from the sisters.
They said they had questions.
That's okay, go ahead. We can.
No questions. طيب. تفضل. Uncle Faz.
Yes, you mentioned about the rights of the husband. When he is, want to be intimate with his wife, she has to agree with the thing. When she wants to have intimacy with her husband.
We say.
That's what the brother was asking.
طيب.
سؤال آخر.
لحظة خلي حبة حبة استوعب إنسان ضعيف خطوة مع صغار صحيح؟ He says here, if a man has to respond, Sheikh Jamal, he says, what would you say to answer this question? When a woman asks her husband to be intimate with her, is it obligatory upon him to respond? Or recommended? Recommended. We say, as Allah Azza wa Jalla and His Rasul surely knows best. What we know for sure is that it is an obligation upon the husband to keep his wife chaste. It is obligatory upon the husband to keep his wife chaste. Anything that he has to do that, then he has to, whether it's being romantic, whether it's having stamina, whether it's this or that, he has to keep her chaste. He has to fulfill her desires. And she has desires just as he does, if not more. So it's upon him to fulfill those desires. That's the general rule. Now, can we say that this rule is just like the husband's rule every single time? If you're on a camel, if you're baking bread, can we say that? No. Allah, I'm not saying yes or no. I don't know. However, if a woman needs to be intimate and the husband has no excuse, and then there's no doubt he should answer. He should be more than happy to fulfill his wife's desire. Even if he's not in the mood. This is important. Because he can be tired from work, and it's a big cause of divorce. So many marriages. Right, Jihad?
Yes, sir.
Many. She complains, the first thing she complains, not about money, not about this. He works too much. He comes home tired, he doesn't take a shower, he's tired. So this is be a balance. So even if her husband is tired, he should sacrifice some time from his sleep. He should sacrifice some of his comfort for the comfort of his wife. And inshallah, he'll sleep better. Bidnillah afterwards. Bidnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we say it's obligatory for a man to protect the chastity of his wife. And anything that falls under that, he must do. Inshallah, clear. Fadal, Jamal.
حكم مشروعية حق الزوجة بالحصول على خال. هذا سؤال.
طيب wedding ring.
يعني هي شرعا يحق لها؟
ليس من حقها الخاتم بالذات، وإنما من حقها المهر. أيوة، وما طلبته منه مما جرت به العادة ليس فيه إسراف ولا تبذير، يعطيها على حسب ما اتفق عليه. إذا كان بمقدوره أن يأتي بالخاتم، نقول هناك أشياء تقصد wedding band، هذا شيء، مسألة التشبه بالكفار والمسيح هذا شيء، لكن نقول الخاتم عادي غير الwedding band، لأن هذه في مسألة.
هذا الذي يخدم
خادم ولا خاتم؟
خادم، هذا الذي يخدم حقها.
لا نقول المهر ما اتفق عليه ويكون محسوس، شيء يستفاد. أنا فهمت عليك، تفهم علي؟ أنا فهمت عليك. مسألة الخدم هذا فيه كلام، مسألة الاختلاط والافتتان بالخادم أو الخادمة هذا لها حديث طويل. المهم نقول إن طلبت منه شيئا معينا ووافق واتفق مع وليها على هذا فعليه أن يوفره. فعليه أن يوفره
على شروطه
كذا، عليه أن يوفيه، يعني أن يوفر لها هذا الشيء في حدود الشرع، في حدود الحلال والجائز. واضح؟ إذا كان محرم منهي عنه مكروه شيء يؤدي إلى الفتنة يبتعد عنه ويحاول يعني يقنعها بالأسلوب الحسن حتى ترضى هي بالمفاهمة وبالكلام الحسن وإبداء الشرع وحكم الشرع في الخادم أو في هذا أو في ذاك بصفة عامة. واضح؟
الزاني لا ينكح إلا زانية والزاني لا ينكح إلا زانية.
طيب
كانت على هذا السلوك قبل الإسلام ودخلت الإسلام فيحق للمسلم يتزوج بها
إذا أسلمت حسن إسلامها وتابت توبة نصوحها يتزوج بها، يتزوج ما في شيء، لكن بهذه الشروط: أن تكون طاهرة ذات عفة وتابت توبة نصوح حسن إسلامها واستقامت يجوز. طيب, we're going to stop here. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to bless us.